Good morning, gang. Joyce with Skipping Calves Farms here. It's been a long time in coming, but I'm going to record a little teaching video, I hope. I'm still waiting for my chest harness. The first one I got had a bad part in it, and so I had to, I'm returning it, and I've ordered another one. But it's the 1st of August. I figured it'd be a good time to start. So behind that batch of trees in the middle is my sheepfold, and then this is a long narrow alley that came down here to this paddock area here, which I've provided for the sheep to give them a shaded area. This decrepit old oak tree, you can see they've kind of stripped the smaller branches, but they love to scrape up against that, and I like to bring them in there in the spring because it's a good way to get their winter coat off. But I ramble, and don't let me do that. What I wanted to show you is something that I'm still working with and experimenting with, but I'm finding pretty good success with, and it's what I'll call my shoelace method. Now, this is a downsized scale. I don't use all the equipment that you hear about on all the big YouTube channels. I watch every YouTube Greg Judy puts out. I listen to Greg Christensen. I listen to a number of people, a lot of people. And most of them talk about the geared reels. All of them talk about the O'Briens, and all of them who do the step-ins, and with good reason. You'll see a few white step-ins here, but most of my step-ins are yellow and blue. And there's a reason for that. They hold up better in the sun, period. And it's a matter of the physics. So I had bought some non-name brand white step-ins when I first got started a few years ago, and they're virtually the only ones that have been damaged. And so everything else I have is an O'Brien, with the exception of the shorter pigtails. You can see that pigtail over there by the chicken tractor. I think those are the 31 inchers. And that coil and that hook correspond pretty well to the O'Brien 4th and 6th hooks, which is what I use with my sheep. But I've not gotten to my point yet, and it's 3 minutes in, so let me get to my point. When I've got a small property, I do a lot of angles, I do a lot of small fencing. I'm carrying things by hand. It is not easy to carry a pigtail with a stack full of step-ins. So if I get to a place and I want to try and do a corner, I don't want to have to make 2 trips. So I've started doing a lot of double step-ins, and you'll hear Greg, Judy taught that, and Isaac Tappenden, his farm manager, does a lot of the doubles. And you'll hear of other people that use 2 step-ins. What I've started doing is I've started doing what I call my shoelace method. So this is just the end of one where both the reel and the hook are, and I came in at 6 inches, and then I brought it down and looped it through and tightened it down, so my reel is hooked on down a little bit lower. On the other side, this is another fence that is hot, so bear with me here as I step over the fence. And if you realize you haven't heard from me in a couple 3 years, well, I had double knee replacement surgery, and so it's been a while. But this is what I've started doing. And for a small paddock, you know, maybe just a few hundred or 1,000 square feet, these things work great. And you can kind of figure out your own technique and your own method. But basically, I'll just come in, go down, back up and around. So I came in on 4, came down, looped around 3, and came back up to 4. And then I looped it over to the next step in on 4, went down to 3, and then back up to 6, looped it around, went back over to 6, down to 5, back up to 6, and then out. So I used one reel for both of these lines. And you can see, if I zoom in here, there's a double blue step in on that corner. And you can see the blue yellow in that corner. And you can see it's bent a little bit, but not too bad. And then on over, and then it ties into the perimeter fence. What's my point? My point is, this paddock was set up over a week ago, and those step-ins have not been modified since. They might be able to use a half a turn to tighten it a little bit, but by shoelacing these two step-ins together, it gives me 2 main advantages. Number one, if I get to a place where I may want to have a corner or stop, when I do that shoelace, it holds it tight from that point forward. And number two, like at this end, you've got one step in on top of the other, so you can shoelace it across so the white one doesn't tend to pull up or get loose. And then when you shoelace them together, they hold each other up. So they're holding each other up on the bottom, you know, kind of snuggy in each other at the bottom, and they're doing the same with the line going through. What I found is they'll stay upright, they'll stay tight. It takes a little bit of time, but not a whole bunch. If I was doing long straight runs like they do on the bigger farms, I would not use this technique. I would not be using the mini reels. The mini reels that I use, I found out about those from Russ Wilson in Pennsylvania. Russ Wilson is an amazing innovator in terms of equipment and stuff. If you've not, he's not been putting out anything new in the last few months, but he's got some great videos out there if you want to check him out. But these little reels are from Ken Cove. You can find them elsewhere. There are other mini reels out there. This one's the best. The handle's bigger, it's more substantial. It's got a great little locking mechanism here with the pin that locks into the holes on the side of the reel. The hooks are really cool. You can use it to lock the hand to lock the gate in place so you can carry the reel around real easy. I'll show that in another one. And they're inexpensive. They're only like 15 bucks. You can buy just the reel, you can buy just the handle, you can buy it as a unit, and you can buy it already pre-strung. I would not suggest you get it pre-strung because the only wire polybraid I would buy is, as Greg Judy talks about, and that's this right here, if you can see that. And that's the Power Flex mixed metal super mixed metal. Now if you can look here, you can see how that fits against my hand. Now I had gotten some nondescript, and see how much smaller that is. The braid's not as tight, it's not nearly as visible. Let me try and show you that as well. As I go over here, and you see around that yellow pole, that yellow step-in, you can barely see the bargain polybraid. Now I'm gonna, and it's cloudy, so light is not a huge issue. Now, all of a sudden, you can see it between those two blue. Okay, well that's great. Here is the mixed metal, and I'm going to scroll up, and look, you can see that mixed metal all the way down that lane. That's huge. It makes it easier to work with. It doesn't kink. It doesn't break. It carries the conductivity better. Greg Judy is spot on when he recommends that particular product. So I've gone 10 minutes. I've shown you this little trick in terms of the shoelace, in terms of the step-ins on the step-ins. I'll go into more of that later. In the meantime, I'm fixing to set up a couple of small paddocks. And so I've got to get back to work. Well, with that, gang, I will wish you blessings for the day, and whatever you do, just keep chasing the dream.